So, I mean, like, what about like rescue missions at sea?
Yeah.
Saving somebody or up, what do you call it when the boat capsizes?
Yeah.
A lot of those?
Yeah, a lot of those, a lot of plane crashes. And I kind of like play out the scenario. Like I feel like it'll be better if I just kind of paint the picture of how it goes. Okay, so a few times a week, we're kind of like a firehouse. So a few times a week, you stand a 24-hour duty shift. And when you're on that duty shift, you're gonna have a rescue swimmer, a flight mechanic, also known as, like, most people call it like a winch operator. So they operate the cable. They do so much more than that. Mm-hmm. But that's the pictures that you always see them in. A pilot and a co-pilot. So the pilot is obviously flying that plane in some they're so good. Mm-hmm. These pilots are so good and they're so smart. The co-pilot is backing up that pilot on everything from like navigation, altitude, wind conditions, sort of just like relaying all the communications to the pilot. And then you got your flight mechanic, who's basically in charge of everything engineering in the helicopter, and also lowering and picking up the rescue swimmer, the survivors, and the rescue devices. And then the rescue swimmer who goes out of the plane and either, swims in the water or goes down to a boat or a cliff. But so a few times a week, there's 4 of us, and we stand duty and we do training flights, and we're also on the hook for any sort of search and rescue that pops off. So normally that search and rescue pops off at night. So we're at our room. We all stay in like this little, it's like a little inn. We all have our own room. It's kind of, It's nice. We have a TV and our own bathroom and a kitchen and stuff. And the alarm goes off. And it happens, like, I swear it happens most nights. That alarm goes off and it wakes you up out of bed. And the 4 of you, we meet up at the operations center. We talk about, hey, what's going on? If it's a medical case, we call it the Coast Guard flight surgeon. I call the flight surgeon, and it's basically a doctor who's on duty who is the doctor is on duty so that I can just call. So, because I'm an EMT, I call the doctor. I'm like, okay, here's what we got. These are the symptoms. What do you want me to do? And the doctor's like, I want you to do X, Y, and Z. Okay. The doctor's like, keep this person's airway open, put them on oxygen, put them in a position of comfort. If their heart stops, throw an AED on them, start pumping on their chest. Their breathing stops, bust out the bag valve mask, and start pumping oxygen into their lungs until you get to the hospital. And it's really as simple as that. So we either make that call if it's medical. If it's not medical, if there's people in the water, I won't even go up to the operations center. I'm just throwing on my wetsuit. I'm like, give me the cliff notes. Get in the helicopter, take off. We'll brief in flight. The pilot usually has all the information for the most part. The pilot will be the last one to come out. So it's usually like the co-pilot will run to the plane, get the plane started. Mm-hmm. So it's like, the flight mechanic will assist that co-pilot in doing that. Mm-hmm. Rescue swimmer and the pilot will usually have a quick, like, what's the situation? How are we going to approach this? And then I'll go and throw my wetsuit on really quick. If everything's moving too quick, I'll just wear my flight suit and change in the helicopter. It's not ideal, but it's like, it is what it is.
Depending on the severity of the call.
Yeah. Once we get on scene, we'll do a couple orbits around the boat or the plane crash, or the people in the water, and we'll figure out like what's the best way to get these people out of the water. And it's a wild thing because I am so scared of heights. Like, I'm terrified of heights. But when we're in that helicopter, all I'm thinking about, it's so crazy. Mm-hmm. All right, like, I want to kind of like, if there's a way that I could bring you into this scenario, it's like, imagine like 4 of the most highly trained people at their jobs who are down to put this thing like to the wire, who are so locked in. And so we fly over. You've got your pilot. If we're over a sailboat, our rotor blades are spinning sometimes 5 to 10 feet above this mast that's going like this. The pilot is so locked in. So they have their cyclic and they have their collective, and they're just like this. woo. For 30 minutes, these guys are locked in 5 feet above this boat. The co-pilot is just calling out everything that they see. Like, pull up. Like, it's not uncommon for the co-pilot to just be like, pull up. And it's like, whoa. It's wild. The margin of error is so close. So while all this is happening, the flight mechanic is getting the boom ready and getting the cable ready, sending the cable back to me. I'm just like, okay, take off my helmet. I'm just like sort of like getting into like I kind of had like a flow. Like I just kind of like, I'm chilling. I unplug, take off my helmet, put on my water helmet, look at my harness, make sure it's all good. Cable comes, I clip in. Once I clip in, I just lean back and I just wait. I can't hear anything. It's just screaming sound. And then the flight, because we already know what we're gonna do. And then I just wait. And then the flight mechanic will just like look and he'll just put 2 taps at the door because the door's already open. So then I just take a breath. I got my fins on. I got all my stuff. I just slide, kick my feet out the door. At this point, we're usually around 80 feet. Depending, like if we're over the water, we're at around 80 feet at this point. If we're over a cliff, we could be at like 300, 400, 500 feet. And then the flight mechanic gives you 1 pat on your chest. As soon as he pats me on my chest, I take off my, we call it a gunner's belt. It's our seat belt that has a long tether. I take off my gunner's belt, check my fins, check my Triton harness, check my mask, check my snorkel, give him a thumbs up. As soon as that happens, he puts my hand down, lifts me up, boom. I swing out of the helicopter, do a 180, plant my feet on the edge of the helicopter and just lean back and just look down at whatever like my mission is. So at this point, I'm doing a scene size up. I'm saying like, what's the best way? You know, how many people do we have in the water? Who should I get first? What's the best possible way to do this? Because at this moment, we also have limited time. So whether the people have limited time to survive in the water or we have limited fuel. So as I'm going down, I'm making my scene size up. It's really not that complicated. I really just usually grab the person who is closest to me or the person who doesn't have flotation on. You know, it's as simple as that. If someone doesn't have flotation, is having a hard time swimming, I'm gonna grab them, shove them in the basket, send the basket up. Okay, go to the next person. Grab the next person, shove them in the basket, set them up. Third person, I don't want the basket anymore. I want the sling because we could reduce a hoist. I'm gonna go up with this person. So I wrap that person up, lock them in, wrap my legs around them, put the sling, and we go up. Once we get up into the plane, now it's like kind of game on as an EMT. Now I'm doing like any life-saving interventions that I have to do until we get to the hospital. And it's like that. it's just like that.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's how it is.
That's fucking crazy.
It's crazy.
How many lives have you saved in the
I don't know.
17 years?
I don't know. Like, not hundreds.
It doesn't matter.
You know,
I mean,
don't
if you
know.
save 20, I mean, I'm just...
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Like tons of medevacs, capsized boats, 1 airplane crash, which was amazing that almost everyone lived.
Was that here?
Yeah, that was off of Molokai, Kalaupapa.
Was it a Cessna?
Yeah. It was a small plane, single engine plane. I don't know if it was a Cessna, but it was something like that.
So the pilot landed the plane well.
Yep.
So in the ocean,
The pilot saved everybody.
they're floating in the ocean,
Yep.
slowly going down.
Yep.
You guys get there, and there has to be what? How many people?
9 people, I think, in the water. But
So you needed 2 separate.
At this point, we have 3 helicopters on
3.
scene.
Okay.
I was the last helicopter on scene, but it was such a mental scenario. This was my first case.
Yeah.
I was young. I think I was 22 years old. It was like my first real water case. And I'm with a pretty seasoned crew, like a solid crew. And the pilot, who's like, he was our engineering officer. So he's an old head already, you know? And I was a young buck, and he knew it. He was this cool guy. And he like looks back, he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to go in." He's like, "Let's go." It was like that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I'm like, "Let's go." So I get down. The first guy, the first guy I get to, he's fully panicking, just like in training, grabs onto me, tries to pull me underwater. I just grab his face, spin him around, and I squeeze him so tight to like let him know, like, hey, you're not in control, I'm in control. And that's that. There's no feelings talked here. Like, I'm in control.
Yes.
So I put him in the basket, I send him up. The next, and he's like, I put him in the basket, and he's like, my wife. He's like, I don't know where she is. And I'm like, I'll find her. So I put him in the basket. I look around, there's no one around. The flight mechanic, local boy, shout out to Lopaka Hele Polole from the east side. He sends me down the hook. I clip in, and it's like so wild because it's like usually they bring us all the way back into the plane. Bro, they pulled me up like 10 feet out of the water. Flew me, they could see the next person.
Okay.
So they flew me to the next person, dropped me in the water. I get to a lady who was about that guy's age, but she's deceased. And I'm thinking in my head, like, I'm like, no way, I have to bring up, this guy's already panicking. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, I have to bring up his dead wife. And so I grab her and I go, I'm with her, I lock her in. I'm like, hey, she's gone, yeah? I bring her up. And I get to the edge of the helicopter, and we're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to put our back towards the helicopter. But I put my back towards the helicopter because when I was in the water, she had a purse still connected to her. So I cut her purse off, but I opened it, and I pulled out her ID.
Hanging from the helicopter.
Yeah. So I cut her purse off her because it was holding her down, it was pulling us in the water. So I cut it off, but before I let it go, I pulled out her ID.
Okay.
And so we're my back's up against the helicopter, and the guy's, I could see him. He's sitting in the basket still, and he can't even get out of it. He's beat. He's just got in a plane crash.
Yeah.
And he's 70 years old.
Yeah. Holy shit.
And he's holding onto the basket and shaking, and I look at him, and he's like this, and I said, no, like, and I showed him the ID, and he's like, that's not her. And I said, okay. So I spin around, I slide her in the cabin, and there was a moment there, and it wasn't such a negative moment as much as it was like, this is what we do. Like, this is my life, and this is what I do. This is my job, and I'm doing my job. And the time for sorrow is definitely not right now. There's 7 more people still in the water, and there's 1 guy who's missing. But there was a moment, I slide her in, and the guy in the basket, her eyes were still open, and the guy in the basket, he just like so sweetly just like puts his hand on her head, and he rubbed her head, and then he
You're good, bro. You're good. Thank you for sharing, bro.
And he closed her eyes, and then went back to work. Yeah.
Got me crying too. So to finish that story, you went back down. Job wasn't done. Was his wife recovered?
Yeah, she was alive.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. The other helicopter picked her up. And we all met at Kalaupapa on the flight strip, and it was chaos. We had C-130s flying overhead, smoke everywhere in the water because the Navy, so cool, the Navy got on scene. They didn't have a rescue swimmer, but they were like, we're going to mark every survivor for you guys. So they threw out smoke. So there's smoke, red smoke everywhere on the water. You've got a C-130 flying overhead at 1,000 feet, a Navy helicopter flying at 500 feet, HFD, 2 Coast Guard helicopters. I just see 2 other rescue swimmers, and we're just going down, just working.
fuck, it's
Yeah.
so beautiful. The
It was
collaboration
beautiful.
between all the different departments.
It's so crazy to see it all, the way it all goes down.
I feel like there's, you know, when you think about things like that, you feel like all the bad things in the world kind of don't seem as bad because there's so many good people out there doing this type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a powerful case. And it was huge. It was my first real rescue. I've done some medevacs up until that point, but they were softballs. Yeah. They were light work, you know. It was like, oh, I go down, you know, someone, you know, like a lot of times too, we're like just going and doing missions where we pick up people off of cruise ships because they have freakouts.
Okay.
You know, they like you get a person who freaks out. Oh, I'm having a heart attack. We go pick them up off the cruise ship. Most of the time, they're not having a heart attack, but the cruise ship doesn't want them on there. They don't want to go 1,000 miles with them. But every once in a while, you get a case that sticks with you, a big time one like that, and I'm super proud of it. I'm so proud of like what we were able to accomplish that day, and like I get emotional about it, but like there's nothing that I don't feel anything inside where I should have done anything differently. So that makes me feel okay.